Good afternoon. I'm Brian Taff along with Shirley and Ellicott as we continue our coverage of Hurricane Sandy today. That massive storm is speeding up now and should make landfall within the next couple of hours.
And Sandy is colliding with another weather system, and that is creating a superstorm that could affect 50 million people in the most heavily populated corridor in the nation. This a live look now in Ocean City, New Jersey. You could take a look at all that flooding that's already occurring. The surf is pretty high out there. It's a very dangerous situation.
Just one of several places we've got live cameras trained today, and we'll be showing you many of them over the course of the next several hours. Our team of meteorologists has been very busy tracking Sandy today.
That is right. Cecily Tynan joins us in a minute. First, let's go to Adam Joseph with the very latest. Adam.
And we have the very latest information in from the National Hurricane Center. As of 4 o'clock, the wind still sustained at 90 miles an hour. It's moving to the west-northwest at 28 miles an hour. It did start to pick up speed earlier this afternoon. It continues at that speed. The pressure 940 millibars. That's extremely low pressure for a Category 1 hurricane. It is now 65 miles to the south and east of Atlantic City and just 55 miles to the east-southeast of Cape May. There's the center of the storm right there, and as it's moving inland, it should actually make landfall within the next couple of hours. It could be between 5 and 6 o'clock as opposed to that 6 to 8 o'clock, but once it does slam onto the shore, it will really start to slow down in speed and will only be in northern Pennsylvania on Wednesday morning, so this will start to stall as it pushes inland. Storm Tracker 6 Live 3D. We'll look at all the heavy rain in just 1 second and some information, but first I'll show you, this is the eye right here that's beginning to push in. You see the void in the rain. That is the center of the storm, the center in the eye of Sandy, as it will push between Atlantic City and Cape May. Now we'll look at some of the information with that heavy rainfall and the gusty winds. Right now near Rehoboth, we are looking at winds at northwest 47 miles an hour sustained, gusting to as high as 60 miles an hour. As we look at some other information down in that region around Cape May, north-northwest sustained 37, right now gusting to 49 miles an hour, and we'll go up a little bit farther into the bay and near the mouth of the Delaware River. There we have winds gusting to 48 miles an hour, and these speeds will continue to really increase in the next hour or two as the center of Sandy pushes in. So you should expect not only at the shore but inland locations of the strongest wind gusts between 5 o'clock and midnight tonight. Sandy's track after she makes landfall, as I mentioned, will really start to slow and will curve to the north by Wednesday morning. It will still have winds of around 40 miles an hour, and it will still be in northern Pennsylvania. It is not until Thursday morning that it pushes up into New York State, so we do have many days to deal with Sandy and her effects. Here is that exact track as it pushes inland. As we're looking right now, it will be right around Stone Harbor, Strathmere, Sea Isle City, where it does make landfall, and then it'll push right up the bay into the Delaware River, then right to the south of Wilmington and over Lancaster. But the exact track, it is very crucial for the storm surge, but not as crucial inland, because no matter the track inland, everyone is still going to see that torrential rain inland locations, as well as those very strong, gusty, damaging winds. Here's that landfall zone, Cape May to Atlantic City within the next couple of hours. When it does happen, we have high tide coming in at 8:30 at the ocean, and then 2 o'clock in the morning as far north in the river to Philadelphia. The only good thing here, if there is any good, is because she's making landfall a couple of hours now before the time of high tide, which is higher than normal because of the full moon. We may not get as much of that storm surge as it could, but it's still going to be deadly and dangerous for folks who are still down there, because the bay and the ocean, no matter what, will still meet in many of the barrier islands, because we're looking at that possibility storm surge in some locations north of the eye to be as high as 15 feet, and many of the dunes and many of the boardwalks that protect some of the inland locations have been battered from this morning's high tide. So they've been eaten at and eroded at, and this will only allow tonight's high tide, Cecily, which is going to be higher than this morning's high tide, to easily breach any of those barriers because they have been weakened so much.
And exactly, and also it's already high because it is a full moon tonight. So now let's show you the wind gusts across the region. The winds are really the highest right around that eye wall. So we're looking at over over the next hour or two, the winds will really be peaking. Atlantic City Airport currently reporting a 51-mile-an-hour wind gust. Not quite as strong, but still pretty high. In Philadelphia right now, 46 miles per hour. Lancaster, 40. And look at this. Trenton currently is reporting a 61-mile-an-hour wind gust. So the future wind gust showing at 7 o'clock. You see this. Atlantic City, things are calming down. That's the eye moving ashore, 27 miles per hour. But Philadelphia, 62-mile-an-hour wind gust. Trenton, 65. Mount Pocono, 63. Reading, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. This is such a huge storm. We've been talking about for days how this has a massive wind field. We're looking at places like Chicago, places like Memphis, Tennessee, that will likely see those wind gusts up to tropical storm force. By midnight, wind gusts still around 50 miles per hour. And bear in mind, like I mentioned earlier, if you are in a city where you have the high rises like Wilmington and Philadelphia, you get a bit of that wind tunnel effect. So winds will be seemingly up to about 80 miles per hour. So this could break some glasses on some of the high rises. Tomorrow morning, it's still windy. The storm system is just spinning inland. So we're looking at wind gusts more than 40 miles per hour in a lot of places. And finally, by tomorrow night, on a typical day, if I talk about a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust, we would be saying that's a really windy day. But by 6 o'clock tomorrow night, 30 is going to seem a lot better than 60. So let's talk about the rain now. Storm Tracker 6 live showing that really the heaviest bands of rain are moving in right now. You can see near Doylestown, Norristown, and Malvern, moving through Pottstown. It's all extending to the north and the west as we get these bands of heavy rain being pushed ahead of the storm system as it moves closer. Philadelphia right now, it's pouring. The heaviest rain is over South Jersey, and it's really a big area of South Jersey. Salem, Glassboro, Hamilton, Medford Lakes, Browns Mills, all these areas are dealing with the real heavy rain. And I do want to zoom a little bit farther out towards the shore because Atlantic City right now, it's not all that heavy, but I want to point that out. That is the eye of Sandy. So you can see just how close it is to land. So between 5 and 6 o'clock, we do expect it to be moving ashore. Rainfall so far, Rehoboth, Delaware, reporting more than 6 inches of rain. Wildwood close to 5. Atlantic City more than 4. Bear, Delaware 4.07. Philadelphia so far, our last rain total, missing out on the bulk of the real torrential rain, less than 2 inches. But on top of what we have right now into Wednesday, we're looking at some areas to the south could get another about 5 inches of rain. With a storm like this, the heaviest rain is actually to the south and west of the center because this is where the tropical winds are actually encountering that cold front we've been talking about. Warm air can hold a lot more water vapor than cold air. So this is why Delaware, I think you're going to be seeing a lot more rain than, say, the Lehigh Valley. So here's that storm surge that Adam was talking about. And again, we're looking at the bulk of our Jersey shore, 6 to 10 feet, perhaps up to 15 feet as that wall of water moves ashore with the center of the storm. Wildwood, about 4 to 8 feet. And the Delaware Bay, we're looking at 2 to 4 feet. As far as the high tide times, I'll talk about that in a moment. But let's talk about the coastal flood warning. Along the Delaware River, we're looking at moderate coastal flooding. Because the high tide along the Delaware is later, we're not looking at major coastal flooding. It'll be moderate. However, along the coast, we're looking at major tidal flooding. Waves will be 15 to 22 feet high. So here are the high tide times. Atlantic City, 8 o'clock. With the center of the storm moving ashore between 5 and 6 because of that faster forward motion, it will be missing the high tide by a couple of hours. So again, like Adam said, this is somewhat good news. We need a little bit of good news. Cape May, 8:34 is the high tide. Rehoboth, 8:11. Reedy Point, you can see almost midnight. In Philadelphia, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's why we only expect the moderate flooding along the Delaware. We'll talk more about Sandy as she continues to move closer to land coming up in a few moments, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sass. Let's move on over to Delaware, and Chad Perdelli, he is right now in Rehoboth Beach where the situation there is very dangerous.
That's right. In fact, Chad, my understanding is that you are southwest of the eye wall as just described by Cecily, and therefore you're seeing the most rain here today.
Absolutely. We're on the second floor of the Atlantic Sands Hotel. We've moved here, one, to keep our equipment safe and dry in this storm, and also to be safe as the heart of this storm begins to approach landfall. Take a look behind me. Those are the waves from the Atlantic crashing into the sand dunes and the beach. They're reaching 15, 16 feet high. We've seen debris fields up on top of the boardwalk. We've been driving through this immediate area. Right now, the main concern is some flooding. Not so much in Rehoboth, a few blocks underwater. Dewey Beach has quite a few flooded roads, but again, we're just getting ready for the eye of the storm, like you said, which is going to be just north of us. So here over the next hour, hour and 15, hour and a half, we're expecting conditions to actually calm a bit as that eye moves in, and then right behind it, the back end of that storm will come. We'll have more rain and more winds. The wind really has been gusty at times, no sustained winds, but we're expecting some of those sustained winds to begin moving in. But the entire area, basically where we are, is evacuated. Delaware Governor Jack Markell is arriving here at the Atlantic Sands. He's expected to hold a press conference at 4:30 p.m. We're going to go over there, and we will bring that to you live. But here at the Atlantic Sands Hotel, we are getting ready for the eye of this storm to move in. And then we'll be bringing live reports throughout the night.
Chad, if we can just quickly, give us some perspective, if you would. We've seen some people standing behind you on the beach, which of course is not advised by any officials. But tell us about those waves behind you. Just how big are they? They appear massive to us.
Well, I think some of the people you see here are actually some of the press corps. Basically, the press corps is hunkered down here at the Atlantic Sands. Some of these are producers out there capturing some images. But the waves really have increased here, I would say, in the last hour and a half. I mean, I don't have a ruler, but we're estimating between 15 and 20 feet. But what's noticeable out here, which we've seen here over the past half an hour, is just the sound of the waves. I mean, they are crashing at a more fierce pace as they hit the shoreline, and you can really feel it. And at times the rain really begins to pour, and the gusts come in, and there's that horizontal rain that really pelts you in the face. Again, we're protected here now on this second floor as we get ready for the eye of the storm. But these waves, I mean, you can just, I don't know if it really, you guys can hear it back there, if it really captures it, but the power of these waves is just tremendous. And it's actually a scary sight at times when you really get them. And you have to be careful. You got to back away. We were down there before, but you get a rogue wave that comes on. I mean, it can come crashing onto the boardwalk, and if you're not prepared, it can wipe you away. And so we've now moved indoors, getting ready for the heart of this storm to make its way to land, and we're just getting prepared for that. Again, like I said, the Delaware governor holding a press conference here at this hotel. We're going to get over there to hear what he has to say, and then get back and follow some more live reports here from the second floor of the Atlantic Sands.
All right, Chad, thank you very much. And of course, as Chad talks about those waves there, they're going to only be bigger further up the Jersey Shore on the northeast side of this storm. And of course, as they've been saying all day long, we're going to see the reshaping and redefining of beaches up and down the Jersey Shore, and of course the Delaware beaches as well. The images, Shirley, we've been seeing around the region, absolutely shocking today. Here in Atlantic City, New Jersey, the power of the surging water utterly destroyed and completely wiped away. The boardwalk along the inlet side of the bay and streets all along the ocean are flooded.
And as Chad was able to show you in some video that we were able to get from Delaware, it is pretty much the same. Much of Rehoboth Beach is underwater now. Roadways throughout the beach town are closed. Just a few people were caught hanging around, but that is a very dangerous choice, as it is a very dangerous situation, and just growing as we go along.
And in northeast Philadelphia, this massive tree came crashing down on top of a house. It happened at the 1200 block of Glenview Street, and you can see it was completely uprooted, that tree. Farther down the road, high winds caused this tree to snap and land right in the middle of the road. Again, as winds begin to pick up, this will be an ever more familiar scene. So stay inside your house as Sandy moves through our area tonight.
Let's go on over to Sarah Bloomquist. She is on Delaware Avenue right now, monitoring the situation out there, and the high winds are very apparent, Sarah.
Yeah, Charlene, conditions greatly deteriorating within the last few minutes. I've covered nor'easters at the Jersey Shore, standing on the boardwalk at the ocean. This is Delaware Avenue in the city of Philadelphia, and it feels very much the same at this hour. As you can see, the waves kicking up here on the Delaware, the wind kind of blowing from the north at this point, really whipping up. The Ray Street Pier is right here, and it, of course, has been closed throughout the day. Now, the authorities have been coming by and monitoring the water levels here along the Delaware. Mayor Michael Nutter reminding people all day this is a city with 2 rivers, and they've been watching the water level here throughout the day, coming by at periodic intervals, even to take photographs so they can keep a close eye on where the river levels are at the particular moment. On this boat ramp earlier in the day, it went all the way down about another 10 feet, but the river water has been rising throughout the day. The high tide here was at 11:45 this morning. And I know the pictures are, it's often difficult to tell how strong the winds are, but I think if you can look up and see under the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, the wind just whipping the rain around there under the bridge, the water coming off that bridge in sheets. And there are, since 2 o'clock, there have been restriction on the local bridges for truck traffic and for motorcycles. None of that allowed across area bridges, haven't been allowed since 2 o'clock this afternoon. Now, here on Delaware Avenue, this is an intersection here at Ray Street that almost always floods in any particular rainstorm, and so they've been watching that. There is a DRPA police vehicle over there. We traveled along Delaware Avenue, we went along the banks of the Schuylkill, and the authorities are positioned at intervals almost everywhere along the local waterways, watching to see when and if the water does rise and if there is any flooding. In terms of traffic at this particular moment, there is really no traffic on Delaware Avenue, although at intervals we have seen some traffic, and city officials have been telling people you may be getting a little stir-crazy inside, but it is just not a good idea to come out. People have been walking down here. You can see these folks over here coming down. They want to check out the river and they want to see what's going on, but city officials have been telling people it's just not a good idea. Stay inside, stay safe. Live on Delaware Avenue, I'm Sarah Bloomquist, Channel 6 Action News.
Good advice. Thank you, Sarah. Let's move on over to Vernon Odom. He is in Center City as well. He was at City Hall earlier. Vernon, what's the situation now?
Mayor Nutter held a jumbo news conference late this afternoon to talk about key decisions made on major city and local government operations for tomorrow. The mayor did emphasize, as Sarah was saying, that everybody who does not have to be out should stay in their own homes where they're safe, or go to a shelter if they are afraid of flooding or power outages. Now, as I said, the mayor outlined decisions for tomorrow on several key operations: SEPTA, the public school district, and city government itself. All 3 will remain shut down for safety reasons tomorrow, as Philadelphians hope to be able to start picking up the pieces from Sandy.
For tomorrow, the city of Philadelphia will be closed except for public safety, emergency personnel, or essential employees, all of whom have been previously identified.
The School District of Philadelphia will be closed tomorrow, Tuesday. The safety of our students, not only at school, but getting to and from school, is extremely important.
Early Tuesday morning, after the storm has passed, SEPTA crews will inspect and assess the conditions of our facilities, equipment, and infrastructure in order to ascertain whether we can safely operate service. This process can take up to 8 hours.
So, perhaps a resumption of some SEPTA service at least by late tomorrow. At this point, we don't know exactly what time, but there are no guarantees, according to Mr. Casey. As for air travel, the airport is open, but you'll want to check in with your individual airlines. U.S. Air, for example, has announced it will not fly in the Northeast Corridor tomorrow, including Philadelphia. The city government system and the DA's office, city court system, I'm sorry, the city courts and the DA's office will remain closed tomorrow. Asked what the private sector should be doing, Mayor Nutter said tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, will be a mess here in the city of Philadelphia, and there'll be no mass transit anyway. Businesses, he said, large and small, follow your instincts. Live in Center City, Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News.
All right, Vernon, thank you so much. Important to note also that the Archdiocesan schools also close tomorrow in addition to Philadelphia public schools. Charter schools will make that decision individually, though the mayor did encourage all of them to follow suit tomorrow. We've been collecting lots of pictures and videos from you, our viewers, as we weather this storm together.
Yeah, Joshua Salter is in a high-rise in Atlantic City, a few blocks from the boardwalk, and he sent us this incredible video a short time ago. Take a look.
There's no boardwalk left. The boardwalk is gone. This is all the boardwalk. That's the pavilion that's still there. That's all gone. All gone.
Wow, incredible stuff there. And to get us your images of the storm, all you've got to do is upload them to 6abc.com, where you can email or text your photos safely. To send it at 6abc.com. We'll continue to show them throughout our coverage tonight. And when posting on Twitter or Facebook, please use the hashtag 6abcsandy. We'll be right back.
In about an hour or so, Sandy is expected to make landfall. And Jenny Joyce, one of our reporters, she is in Cape May County, bracing for the worst.
Well, this storm has really kicked up since my last live shot a couple of hours ago. We're dealing with some strong gusts of wind. The rain is coming down in all directions right now. Earlier today, we were able to get out on the beach, and we did get some shots of the ocean roaring against the storm. But the ocean is growing in intensity by the minute. We also captured localized flooding in the streets throughout the town. We saw streets turned into streams. Now, this was earlier in the afternoon, so there's still that heightened concern about the kind of flooding that we will expect to see once high tide rolls around at 8:30 tonight. Now, while we still have power here at Congress Hall, we are hearing that surrounding properties have already lost power. The hotel warned us and said it's only a matter of time. For now, we're live in Cape May, New Jersey. Jennifer Joyce, Channel 6, Action News.
All right, Jennifer, thank you very much. Of course, officials are urging everybody to stay inside, stay safe, do not go on the roads unless you absolutely have to in the event of some emergency. And if that is the case, then there are a couple of things you should be aware of today.
Yeah, we hope there's not many cars out there on the roadways. But of course, Matt Pellman is in the Action News Center with the very latest and the conditions there.
You know, guys, it's really disheartening to see all these different shore communities being battered, these places that so many of us grew up going to every summer and have such wonderful memories from. It's a tough thing to watch. Luckily, around the Philadelphia area this afternoon, conditions aren't quite as dire. We just have really wet roadways, really slippery roadways, a lot of flooding, so it's still definitely not a good idea to go out. But you see some people are out and about here along 95 in South Philadelphia. You have to take it easy on these bridges like the Girard Point. It's very windy, easy to lose control as you head southbound toward the airport. Speaking of bridges, okay, here's our situation. 35 miles per hour is the restriction across the board, and no commercial vehicles, meaning no trucks, no buses are allowed. Also no trailers, no motorcycles. I don't know why you'd want to ride a motorcycle on a day like today anyway, but definitely not allowed on the bridges this afternoon. I think wet for the bridges is a bit of an understatement. Here's our good buddy Ben Franklin Bridge. You see it is very soggy. You see just a few cars there moving westbound towards Center City. I just got word from the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission that they are going to be closing the interchange at Fort Washington. All ramps from the PA Turnpike to Fort Washington will close as of 5 o'clock this evening. You might remember last year during Tropical Storm Lee how we watched as the whole Fort Washington area around the turnpike just went underwater, and apparently we have flooding rolling into that area again. So again, all ramps from the PA Turnpike to Fort Washington will close as of 5 o'clock this evening. As we look at the big picture, we're watching lots of downed trees this afternoon, one of them blocking the northbound side of the Lincoln Drive between Gypsy and Rittenhouse. Also have one along Henry Avenue right by Hermit. 7600 block of McCullum, there's a downed tree. Also have one along Benson Street, 600 block of Princeton Avenue. Downed trees just scattered throughout the city. We've got flooding over in Camden blocking a number of streets, including Hayes. River Road, not surprisingly, is a river this afternoon, so it is shut down as well. There's also flooding around the Brooklawn Circle here in Gloucester County, blocking 130 at 47. On 42, southbound by 130, there's still a wreck taking out a lane, so you have to swerve to get around that, and expect that high water that we so often see there on 42 as you travel through Belmar down toward 295. Big problems on the New Jersey Turnpike. We're being told it's emergency maintenance closing all lanes in both directions between exit 7A and exit 8 for Heightstown. What we were hearing is that they might be removing some things from some of the overpasses for fear that things are going to blow off the overpasses and start flying around. So Jersey Turnpike closed in both directions. 295's open, but with speeds like 15 miles per hour. And of course, down the shore, scores of roads remain closed, including the Garden State Parkway, the whole way from the exit for LBI on down to Cape May. That's about 63 miles plus. Brian and Charlene, we'll check it again in just a bit.
All right, Matt, thank you for that. And let's go back down to the shore to Annie McCormick now. She is live in Ocean City right now. Annie?
Hi, we're again using that DeGero Live Plus app on my iPhone, which is why I'm using this phone to talk to our control room. We're using this again because the wind gusts are getting so strong that it's affecting our satellite signal. I want to take you again, show you this street behind me. We're in Ocean City, New Jersey. We are at North Street and Ocean Road, where you can see some of the flooding here. But what you can really want to take a look at, if you can capture it in the iPhone, is the wind gusts. They're getting incredibly heavy right now. We do have power still, but the power was flickering a little bit, and that's something that we're hoping obviously stays on, but something we're expecting to go out, especially in a storm like this. Now, as you can see down the road, we're probably about 7 blocks from the bay and 3 blocks from the beach. Again, you can see the wind. That's one heavy wind gust we just got, and it's hitting a lot of those power lines, which again is another concern in this area. Of course, we don't want them to take those power lines down. Now, here's the situation. As for the beaches, we did head down to some of the beaches in the area to see how they're doing. And in fact, this morning, the wind gusts were so strong that the ocean actually breached the dunes and went over onto one road, actually taking out a large section of the dunes, ripping it apart, bringing it down a block, filling that entire block with water. And there are a number of homes, unfortunately, that were flooded. They look like they were people's summer homes. Now, we're in more of a residential area in Ocean Road in Ocean City, New Jersey right now. And again, they're bracing for these winds, hoping that their power does still stay on. We have touched base with emergency management. As I have told you before, of course, those evacuations were supposed to be done by Sunday night. However, there are a number of people today that realized they really wanted to leave, and they should have followed those evacuation warnings yesterday. So emergency management has taken care of at least 15 people. The National Guard actually had to step in and bring those people over to the mainland. I want to give you another look, though, again, to show you the wind gusts that are picking up here. I don't know exactly how strong they are, but you can hear what Cecily and Adam are saying about the wind gusts that we are expecting to sustain out here. But of course, we're going to keep our eye on it out here. We will be back again with you soon in a number of minutes. Bear with us again, because we're using this iPhone app, so I hope that you can really capture it. But for now, we're live in Ocean City, New Jersey. Annie McCormick, Channel 6 Action News.
Great job, Annie. Definitely captures it very well.
You can certainly hear that wind picking up down there. All right, well, of course, our team of meteorologists busily tracking Sandy today.
Absolutely. Cecily Tynan and Adam Joseph joining us now. Let's start off with you, Adam.
Yeah, and that band that is pushing into the shore right now with Annie's live shot in Ocean City, you could hear and see the wind. The National Weather Service just issued a special weather statement that there is a band of heavy rain and wind stretching all the way from Georgetown up through Long Beach Island that is just offshore, that is expected to come in the next 15 to 20 minutes and could last until about 6 o'clock. In that band, there are reporting speeds of wind near 80 miles an hour, so that they haven't even seen the worst yet. So that is about to slam onto the New Jersey and Delaware coastline. So Annie definitely is going to see those effects really deteriorate here over the next half an hour. Wind still sustained right now 90 miles an hour. It's moving to the west-northwest at 28 miles an hour. The pressure still extremely low for a Category 1 hurricane. This is more of a pressure for a Category 3 hurricane at 940 millibars. It is about 65 miles southeast of Atlantic City. That was as of 4 o'clock. So it's even closer than that now, and expecting landfall within the next hour. As we look at Storm Tracker 6 street level, there you can see the edge. There's a little bit of a hook right here. This is the beginning edges of that eye in the center of the storm and the hurricane. In fact, you see winds near Atlantic City of 51 miles an hour, but we're going to put on something different in that we typically never show you on the air, and these are streamlines. These are the wind trajectory around the storm, and you can clearly see the center of Hurricane Sandy here, where the winds go counterclockwise around the storm, and that is the center there. There is the coastline, not very far from it. In fact, as we take a look at the winds, they're coming from the north to the south. So right now from Atlantic City to Cape May and Rehoboth, the wind is coming from the land out to the ocean. So we're not getting that surge of wind to help bring up those waves. But what's happening with the center of that storm and the way it's moving in this white line between Atlantic City and Cape May, it will bring that wall of water with it because of the lower pressure. It's not pushing down on the ocean, it's lifting the ocean. That will come with it. So you don't need the winds directly off of the water to bring in such a large surge. In fact, as we take a look at Storm Tracker 6 Live 3D, these are the wave heights. Right now at the tip of Cape May, we're seeing wave heights at 17 feet. Atlantic City near 16 feet. Long Beach Island right now around 19 to 20 foot waves, and these waves will continue to grow as they push inland. Rehoboth Beach 18 feet, and in the bay also, as we take a look at there, 13-foot possible waves even in the Bay of Delaware, which is just massively larger than we've ever seen in our region, and all that water still has to funnel up the Delaware River as well. Here is Sandy's track. Now, she is moving a lot quicker than we originally anticipated and the model said. That's a good thing because it is not going to make landfall at the exact time of that full moon high tide. It will be a couple of hours before that, but nonetheless, we're still going to see that devastating blow to the shoreline that could alter the coastline as we know it when we go back down and assess the damage. Once it hits land, it hits friction, and storm systems do not come in from the east to the west. So it's unnatural in the atmosphere. Have to turn back and pull back to the east where our typical weather patterns go with a jet stream. So it's going to be very slow to curve and move away. So even by Wednesday morning, the system is still in the state of Pennsylvania. So this is not just a daily type of event we're dealing with today. It is going to be multiple days. Here's that exact track as we're looking right now, coming in over Cape May County, then hugging the bay in Salem and Cumberland County, south of Wilmington, then into Lancaster. But no matter the track, once it's inland, everyone inland is going to feel the same effects of this storm no matter where it does make landfall. In that landfall zone within probably the next hour and a half to hour when it makes landfall, that's when the bay and the ocean, unfortunately, yet again, like in Long Beach Island with this morning's high tide, will meet, meaning the entire barrier island will be submerged in water. Also, the possibility of that surge of 15 feet. That's a 15-foot wall of water. Stand where the normal high tide is. Imagine 15 feet of water above your head that has to rush in not only with the storm and the wind, but has to come in with that astronomically higher than normal tide. Cecily, you have much more on the storm, especially with the wind and the rain aspect of it, and that wind and rain really going to do a lot of damage to inland locations.
That's right. It certainly will. I still want to focus on the storm surge for just another moment, because this is part of the reason why all the officials were urging people on the barrier islands to evacuate. We're looking at, in general, over most of our coastline, a 6 to 10 foot wall of water piling up on shore. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, a cubic yard of seawater is 1,700 feet. So that's enough to cause substantial damage, not just to the beach, but also to the coastal structures, to all the vacation homes on the beachfront. So this is, again, what we expect the storm surge based on the landfall. The heaviest storm surge is just north of the center of landfall. So we're looking at here 6 to 10 feet, but I don't want to underestimate the surge to the south. We're looking at 4 to 8 feet across Cape May, across the Delaware beaches. So this is substantial. This will cause a lot of problems. And along the bay, this is pretty substantial as well. We're looking at a storm surge 2 to 4 feet. So this will really be pushing a wall of water up the Delaware. Wind gusts so far, they're going to be getting a lot stronger between now and 6 o'clock. But so far, Tuckerton, Ocean County, New Jersey, reporting hurricane force winds winds, 74 miles per hour. Sandy Hook near hurricane force, 71. Harvey Cedars, 69 mile per hour wind gusts. Cape May so far 57. Atlantic City so far 55. But again, as Adam mentioned, we will be looking at wind gusts likely over 80 miles per hour until about 6 o'clock and then pushing inland. So these are the expected wind gusts tonight between now and 7 o'clock. We're looking at along the shore 80 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts. But this is such a huge storm that wind field expands well inland. So 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts across our entire viewing area. This includes the Lehigh Valley. This includes the Poconos, and big problems if you live in the city, if you live in Center City, if you live in Wilmington, because with the high rises, we get the wind tunnel effect. The wind is forced between the buildings. So the wind gusts 60 to 80 miles per hour when it's forced between the buildings really increases to 80 to 100 miles per hour. So this means there is a concern. A lot of the windows, especially on the higher floors, could be blown out. So if you are in a high rise, a good idea for the next several hours to get away from the windows. That was something that happened in downtown Houston back in the 80s with Hurricane Alicia. A lot of broken glass all over the downtown. Now let's talk about rainfall. Because the track has shifted farther to the south than what we were talking about last night, this has shifted really the highest band, the bullseye of rain to the south and west. So this is where we're expecting 8 to 10 inches of rain when the storm system is over. So most of Delaware actually and the southern part of Chester County, you are really in the bullseye for the heaviest rain. Elsewhere, we're looking at 4 to 8 inches of rain. So the rainfall will be intensifying over the next couple of hours, and it's going to take a good portion of tomorrow before it ends. So that flood warning is in effect for most of our viewing area right now. More on Sandy coming up in a minute.
And good evening again. We are now awaiting the arrival of Hurricane Sandy. The storm is packing powerful winds. It is expected to make landfall in the next hour or two. And you're looking at a split screen. On the right-hand side, well, we lost it. We'll go back to it when we get a chance.
That's right. We have many cameras out and about. Along with our crews, we are getting updated information right now on the potential impact of this system. Every community in our area is urging folks to stay off the road, stay inside where they are safe. And of course, you can find all the latest information, school closings, evacuation details, traffic information right there on the bottom of your screen. We are constantly updating them.
But right now, let's go over to meteorologist Cecily Tynan and Adam Joseph for the very latest on the storm's path at this hour. Guys.
Hi, guys. And I tell you, we are getting into really the peak of this storm system. We just got in the 5 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center, and Sandy is on the verge of making landfall. It's 40 miles south of Atlantic City. That puts it 30 miles east-southeast of Cape May. It has not weakened at all. This is still a monster storm. We're looking at the pressure 940 millibars. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm, and maximum sustained winds 90 miles per hour. And this storm system is racing towards the west-northwest, 28 miles per hour. If you look very closely, you see, I want to try to draw it, the eye of that storm system, and you see that last frame. It's so close to making landfall, and now we're getting the bands of not only the heavy rain, but the heavy rain with the high wind gusts that are being pushed along ahead of this storm system. So Storm Tracker 6 3D live showing, first of all, you can see the bands of the orange, the yellow. That's the heavy rain, and with those bands, we're looking at wind gusts at about 65 miles per hour. So where you see the heavy rain is where we're getting the damaging winds, and we do have some buoy reports right now. You can see this one just to the east of Ocean City, Maryland. We've got a wind sustained out of the northwest, 47 miles per hour, gusting to 65. The wave height is 21 feet. And I also want to go to another buoy report if we have another one right here. And you can see in Delaware, winds right now out of the northwest, 47 miles per hour, gusting to 60 miles per hour. Now, Storm Tracker 6 3D live can also show the wave heights. And as the center is getting very close to landfall, we're seeing some very intense wave heights right around the shore, breaking on the beaches. You can see these wave heights anywhere from 17 feet to 21 feet. So this is causing massive beach erosion. This will really help with the storm surge that unfortunately is going to be at record levels. And then closer out to sea, you can see the wave heights up to 26 feet. So this is a massive storm. This is a dangerous storm. And unfortunately, we're not looking at any change in the track. It will continue to move toward the northwest, making landfall within the next hour. And then you see that it doesn't just weaken and fall apart. It meanders. It slowly weakens. It's still going to be causing problems tomorrow. It won't be a hurricane anymore at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but still we're looking at winds maximum sustained up to 60 miles per hour, so still a strong storm. And then finally, it'll begin to make that hook. Most storm systems, they move from the west to the east, so finally it will get picked up with westerlies and moved out, but it is going to take a while. So even though this is the height of the storm, once this storm system makes landfall, it's still going to be causing problems for quite some time, at least through tomorrow into Wednesday. So this is the very latest on the track, and it looks like it will be moving in. You can see kind of the tip of New Jersey near Cape May and Atlantic County, and then it will continue to move toward the northwest over the Delaware Bay and continue to push that wall of water into the land, causing massive beach erosion and causing the storm surge. So we've really narrowed down the landfall zone, and again, on the verge of making landfall. It will be happening within the next hour between Sea Isle and Atlantic City. This is where the bay and the ocean will really merge over the barrier islands. The barrier islands are going to be submerged, a lot of them already. Possible storm surge up to 15 feet. So this storm surge is not just breaking the records, it will be smashing the records. Unfortunately, a kind of record we don't want to be broken. For more on what to expect as far as the winds, the storm surge, let's go over to Adam Joseph. Adam.
Yeah, and that storm surge, as you're mentioning, historical in record, not only because of the size of Sandy and that odd and unusual movement coming in from the west to the east, but also that higher than normal tide because of a full moon. So we are looking at anywhere from 6 to 10 feet from Avalon and northward all the way up into New York City, the southern, extreme southern part of Cape May County between 4 and 8 feet. Wind gusts presently right now in Philadelphia 46 miles an hour, Trenton 59 miles an hour, even the Lehigh Valley, which is extremely far from the storm, 52 mile an hour wind gusts in the last hour and 58 at the Atlantic City Airport. Those sustained winds, where we're going to see the peak of them, will continue from now through about 2 o'clock in the morning, where you see that deep red around Lancaster. The orange area, still very dangerous winds going into the wee hours of Tuesday morning after midnight tonight. The sustained winds still staying over 40 to 50 miles an hour. That area starts to shrink, but this is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning when we're still going to be affected by some very powerful winds, and even into tomorrow afternoon. That system, as Cecily mentioned, as it tries to go back into a more normal path in the atmosphere that goes west to east, the winds will still be around here, but we at least don't have that cone of red or orange around the region by tomorrow afternoon. Gusts so far in Tuckerton, 76 miles an hour. That just happened within the last hour. Sandy Hook, 71 miles an hour. Harvey Cedars on Long Beach Island, near 70 mile an hour wind gusts. Northeast Philadelphia now clocking in at 59 miles an hour, and Cape May so far a wind gust of 57. We're looking at Storm Tracker 6 live. Not only do we have the capability of looking at the radar, but we can put on extra information that we look at behind the scenes and don't typically show you on air. But this is just a clear indication of where the storm is and what is happening. All of these lines, they're called stream lines. It's an equal area of where the winds are blowing around the storm, and it is counterclockwise here. So there's the center of the storm. There is the coastline. The winds right now are pretty much paralleling the coastline from Belmar, Surf City to Atlantic City, southern Cape May, and Delaware. The winds are actually blowing from the land out to the water, and typically when we have that, you think of lower than normal tides because it blows the water out and it doesn't help rise the wave heights. But in this unique situation, this storm is so strong with that lower pressure, it actually rises the water underneath the center of the storm. So all of this has to push in with us. So even though the winds are coming mainly off of the land at the present time, we are watching for that possibility of the record storm surge. Now we look at the radar. This band right here, the leading edge of where the eye is, does have or had a history of reporting winds near 70 plus miles an hour at the shore, and now 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts are approaching Center City, Philadelphia, Wilmington, Salem, Malvern, and Norristown. This is torrential rain and very strong winds, just one of many bands that does have to push through. And the core of it right now is in Delaware County, southern parts of Chester County, northern parts of Chester County, and also into the southern part of Montgomery County. And you can see that leading edge of where the heavy rain is now beginning to exit is in the eastern part of New Jersey. That will push through Center City in the next 15 minutes. Doesn't mean that we're completely done for the night. That is far from the truth. There'll be many more of those bands on the eastern side of the WPVI once it pushes west of Philadelphia. Rainfall total so far: Rehoboth over 6 inches, Wildwood near 5 inches, also near 5 inches in Atlantic City, over 5 inches in Dover, Philadelphia about 2 1/4 so far. And the additional rainfall, this will create massive inland flooding, especially south and west of Philadelphia. Wilmington, Dover could take the brunt of the freshwater flooding in inland locations on the rivers and creeks. Allentown about 2 1/2, Trenton about 2 inches additional rain. So major coastal flooding, waves 15 to 22 feet, moderate on the Delaware River through tomorrow morning. In fact, here are the times of high tides in Atlantic City tonight. This is the crucial time. 8 o'clock there, Cape May 8:34, Rehoboth 8:11, and then as we get into Philadelphia, it's about 2 in the morning, Rick and Monica, where we could see some massive flooding, if not record flooding, in Philadelphia coming up the Delaware River.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, let's head live now to Action News reporter Nora Mushanek standing by in Sandy with monitoring Hurricane Sandy in Long Beach Island with the latest from that section. Hi, Nora.
Hey there, Monica. I'm standing next to this bush in front of Long Beach Township Town Hall just to give you an idea of what those winds look like that Adam was talking about. Winds in the 70s, in the 70 miles an hour. It's incredible. And that, along with the water that is punching through the dunes and rolling into the streets here, well, that has police saying that now that the storm is bearing down on us, it's time to suspend going to people's homes and plucking them out. The folks who did not evacuate. The mayor tells me he did pull, the township folks pulled 150 people from their homes today, picked them up in buses. Some were picked up on jet skis, others on front-end loaders, literally. One 84-year-old man was picked up in a front-end loader, but that's over with now because it would be too much of a risk to the emergency personnel. Now, I want to tell you what one of the police officers here said about folks who are still in their homes. Please listen to what he has to say.
In the event of emergency, we will make every effort to attempt to get there. But at this point in time, due to the weather conditions at present, we're not going to be able to make any more unified effort to go out and recover people at this point in time.
Now, police ran several rescue buses out of this station today. They were getting people from their homes over the bridge to get them to safety onto the mainland so they could get to the shelters. People got themselves here and were transported across the bridge, as I said, but with all the flooding, it hasn't been easy. You'll note that the officers were wearing life vests and had rescue floats in case anything went wrong. So they've stopped moving around the island as much as possible right now. If you're in your house, they want you to stay there at this point. That's probably the safest thing to do. Earlier, as I was saying a few moments ago, Long Beach Boulevard, which is the main boulevard in town, that was completely covered in water from end to end and will be again. Beyond that, you probably can't see that far, but the bay, the Barnegat Bay, is swollen like you've never seen it before. It's really, really something. So we are hunkered down here at the Long Beach Township Town Hall in the police department, but I'll tell you what, I don't even think the men in blue will be able to protect everyone here from what's going to happen here tonight. Live in Brant Beach, I'm Nora Mushanek, Channel 6 Action News.
All right, Nora, thank you. Well, the eye of the storm is centered around the Cape May area of the Jersey Shore, and all day long officials there have been planning their strategy on how to keep residents safe. Action News reporter Jennifer Joyce is in Cape May, and she's live on the phone with us now to bring us up to date on the latest efforts there. Jennifer.
Well, Rick, we've been hearing our meteorologists tell us that Sandy will be moving in very soon, and I can tell you that what I'm watching right now is evidence of that. We have the rain pounding from all directions. The sea is continuing to get stronger as the waves crash closer and closer to land. I can also tell you that the air has gotten a lot colder as well. This storm system here in Cape May is definitely gaining intensity. Here we can watch the trees just blowing from side to side as they're catching these wind gusts. Flooding is also accumulating. Earlier we showed you pictures of several streets that turned into rivers. And we couldn't even see the end of them because the entire streets were completely flooded by several inches. Here at Congress Hall, looking down earlier, we also showed you the front lawn. It continues to be deeper submerged in water.
earlier I talked with the mayor of Cape May, says if we get these 80 to 90 mile an hour wind gusts like predicted, we will see that property damage. So again, right now we're dealing with increasingly strong wind gusts as Sandy approaches here. Rick?
Okay.
We have a quick question for you before you go, and of course we'll be checking in with you all throughout the evening. Obviously, local police and fire are at the ready. All crews are out and about, making sure folks are safe. State police have been deployed as well. Have you seen any evidence of the state and federal folks? I know there are some National Guardsmen on duty as well. Anything you're seeing, Jennifer?
Right here, no. Where we're stationed, we haven't been able to see any of the national folks. We really haven't seen much activity, which is a good sign. We haven't seen people wandering the streets. We haven't seen many cars mobilizing through the streets, which is good. Like I said, we are here at Congress Hall, which is oceanfront, and no, at this point, we have not seen any of those national crews around. Okay, well that means people are taking the word and have evacuated. Jennifer Joyce, thank you for that report from Cape May. Monica? Meantime,
Action News reporter Annie McCormack is monitoring the storm in Ocean City. And Annie, what are you seeing on that vantage point?
In the box.
We're live in Ocean City, New Jersey at Ocean and North. And right now, it's not so much the rain that's a problem. The gusts feel that they're at about 50 to 60 miles per hour. I'm going to take you over here a little bit so you can see some of the water. The flooding isn't necessarily so bad in this area. However, it is. We're going to stop right there because we're using this iPhone app, the DeGero Plus Live, so we might break up a little bit. We're kind of trying out walking a little bit here because we want to show you as much as we can. But right here is the water. The flooding isn't necessarily the worst in this part. In other areas of Ocean nobody could go off the island. All three ways out were completely shut down, and that even included people that they wanted to get out. We're told that the Office of Emergency Management did help people today and got them, with the help of the National Guard, over to the mainland. But at this point, they're saying unless you really need to get out, you need to stay in, and you're staying for Sandy for the long haul. But we want to show you the gusts right now are really picking up, and as far as power right here, it's so of course we'll keep you up to date with the very latest.
All right.
Nature wreaking havoc with our signal again.
All right, yeah, the storm causing some problems, as it has been throughout the afternoon. But power outages, meantime, are spiking as Sandy unleashes fierce winds on the region. PSE&G is reporting more than 93,000 people without electricity right now. More than 74,000 Atlantic City electric customers are experiencing some type of outage. PECO, meantime, is listing 20,000 customers without power. And there's the number, 20,000 from PECO. Half of the reports, we're told, are in Bucks County. Delmarva Power, just over 9,000 outages. And PPL has about 5,000 customers without power at this hour.
And by the way, as the night does wear on and the storm intensifies in this region, many of you also will be losing your power. You can still stay informed, stay right in touch with us, and be safe by hopefully following Action News on a battery-operated radio. We are there for you. Several local radio stations have partnered with 6ABC to broadcast our signal over their airways for folks who lose power. Mix 106.1 is carrying our signal until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. 900 AM Word will broadcast Action News from 7 p.m. tonight until 7 a.m. tomorrow, and 92.5 WXTU and Wired 96.5 will also carry our coverage as the storm progresses, so please stay in touch. We're also just now getting a good look at some of the effects of Sandy already along the Jersey Shore. The action cam in Atlantic City today at Pacific and Vermont Avenues. You can already see some of the serious beach erosion caused by the high winds and the surf that has been relentlessly pounding the shoreline.
All right, in the meantime, let's talk about air travel. Well, there wasn't any. Tonight, thousands of flights have been canceled because of Hurricane Sandy. That's nationwide, as a matter of fact. This is a live look at Philadelphia International Airport. Officials there have suspended all operations. That means no incoming flights or outgoing. U.S. Airways has canceled all flights today and tomorrow and they hope to resume on Wednesday. Once again, no U.S. air flights in or out of Philadelphia today and tomorrow.
Hurricane Sandy created a big problem on a heavily traveled Montgomery County road. The heavy rain opened up a big sinkhole here on Henderson Road in Upper Marion Township. That hole is between Solon Boulevard and Church Road, right in the middle of a construction zone. You see the construction trucks, concrete trucks now pouring cement into the hole to fill it up. And authorities throughout our area are encouraging everyone to stay off the roads tonight.
Good idea. The conditions very treacherous, and Matt Pellman is in the Action News Traffic Center with a closer look. Matt.
Because I can still go back to Adam back later just to do the wind. We could do the rain.
You could do the rain up there. I think you should do that band of rain, saying where the heaviest wind and rain is.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then maybe we don't do the buoys and stuff.
Hello? Oh, I think you can hear me now. There we go. We've got sound. Well, I was asking you if you could hear the sound of the chainsaws, because we are seeing a lot of people out there this evening with their chainsaws. We saw a PennDOT crew here along the Blue Route 476 southbound just a bit ago working on this down tree near the Villanova interchange, but it's still blocking the two right lanes, so just the left lane is squeezing by. It's floodwaters that are giving us problems along the turnpike this afternoon at the Fort Washington interchange for 309. The high waters mean that the ramps connecting the turnpike with Fort Washington are going to close at 6 o'clock, so in just about 40 minutes. Farther east on the turnpike, all lanes are blocked eastbound between Ben Salem and the Del Val interchange. That's because of another downed tree. If you bail out at Ben Salem for Route 1, the boulevard, you can't get by between Grant Avenue and Lott Street. Another tree came down there. Lincoln Drive, northbound north of Gypsy Lane, there's another downed tree that has yet to be turned into sawdust, so all lanes are blocked in that vicinity. Still some flooding closing the Brooklawn Circle this afternoon. Over in Cherry Hill, another tree's down along 70. Westbound lanes blocked at Springdale Road. In Pemberton Township, Burlington County, a down tree is blocking 70 in both directions near the 4-mile circle. On the New Jersey Turnpike, storm-related emergency maintenance activities are requiring a closure, and the closure has been extended now the whole way from exit 7 for 206 there in Burlington County on up to exit 8 in Hightstown. That long stretch of the New Jersey Turnpike is out of commission this afternoon. If you have to be out, you have to stick with 130 or 295 instead. Of course, down the shore, we've been talking about all the closures, including an extended one now on the Garden State Parkway. All lanes of the parkway are blocked both ways. The whole way from the New Jersey Turnpike on down to Cape May, that's about a 130-mile stretch. And mass transit not running whatsoever. NJT, Patco, and SEPTA all out of commission for the rest of the day and likely tomorrow. Rick and Monica, back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
Meantime, Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter has been pleading with folks all day to stay off city streets while Hurricane Sandy barrels through our region. Here's what he had to say today.
Our entire city government and all of our stakeholder partners are focused on public safety. Our emergency personnel are out there doing the job, even in the midst of this storm. We need the public, please, to do your part. Stay at home. If you don't need to be outside, if you don't need to be in your car, please be safe. If you need to relocate, please relocate. We care about you.
All right, that's the word from Mayor Nutter. The city of Philadelphia has announced that government offices will be closed tomorrow due to Sandy. There will also be no school tomorrow for the Philadelphia School District or the Philadelphia Archdiocese, and no classes will be held at least through tomorrow.
That's right. Well, many folks living along the Delaware River have already evacuated their homes.
And Action News reporter Sarah Bloomquist is live on Delaware Avenue now with a closer look at the conditions there. Hi, Sarah.
Hi there, Monica and Rick. We're still dealing with some pretty impressive wind gusts here along the Delaware River. Believe it or not, the rain has actually tapered off just a bit. There are concerns about river flooding. This is a city with a river on either side, and authorities throughout the day, both on the Schuylkill River and the Delaware, have been on hand monitoring the rivers and the waterways, both on the Schuylkill and here on the Delaware, as we get this impressive wind gusts here. Now, they've been taking periodic pictures even of the Delaware River here. You can see where it comes up the boat ramp, and actually we think just from our standpoint here that it's actually gone down a little bit, but you can see the waves and the kind of the wave action here on the surface of the river as these wind gusts come through. We are just beneath the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, and there are traffic restrictions on the area bridges. Trucks restricted, as well as motorcycles as well. For the most part, people have been staying off this roadway. We occasionally see some traffic, unclear where people need to go tonight. They need to stay off the roadways as well. And we've also been seeing some people coming down to get a look at the water, which the city is advising people not to do. It's better to stay indoors and stay safe. Live along the Delaware River, Delaware Avenue, I'm Sarah Bloomquist, Channel 6 Action News. Back to you.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Main Street in Manayunk is always prone to flooding and big storms. And shop owners are not taking any chances with Sandy. Action News spotted dozens of sandbags like those covering basement access doors in front of many businesses to hopefully prevent any flooding.
Our Alicia Vitarelli's been checking out photos from our viewers today. She's at the Action News Big Board now with a closer look on what's happening as folks send us their Twitter and Facebook tweets and photos. Hi, Alicia.
Hey, Alicia.
Hey, guys. The photos that are coming in as the hours go on are becoming more dramatic, and they're very sad. A lot of people taking these pictures from the Jersey Shore. This one entitled "Brigantine is Going Under." As you can see here, the water levels just continuing to rise. Our own Dan Cuellar is in Atlantic City, and we've been taking reports from him all throughout the day. And this is one of the most dramatic images that we've seen today. This is an image that Dan shot from obviously up high. And as you can see, those waves just tearing into the coastline of Atlantic City today. And as we go through the night, we only expect it to get worse. Coopersburg and Lehigh County, we're looking at a lot of trees down. This coming from some of our Twitter followers. We're using the hashtag 6ABC Sandy. We thank you so much for sharing your visual images with us today as you help us tell this story, and we know that you are doing so safely, please. This picture coming in today, as you can see here down along the Jersey Shore, this one coming from a shore house in Ocean City, New Jersey. You can see the water level there just getting very dangerously close to these homes, and as it continues to rise. We have some storm damage here in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to show you a lot of trees coming down. Many people had told us that they were actually taking those trees down, the limbs down, in advance of the storm, afraid of what they might do to the house. And as you can see here, Galloway Township, New Jersey. Janine, thank you for sharing this one. This one came in through our Twitter account. Whoever is driving, whoever this car belongs to, hopefully there is nobody behind the wheel. This is what not to do during the storm, but it just gives you an idea of just how high those floodwaters are. Fishtown, Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia here, you can see whoever parks their car here in a bad spot because these trees are coming down. The wind gusts are extremely high, only expected to get worse. This boat here in Belmar Inlet taking a beating as those waves just get churned up through this storm. We are certainly seeing, as the hours go on, the damage continuing to get worse. This is Port Republic. Debbie Wilson sending this in for us today. And as you can see, finally here, we have someone on a boat making their way through Mystic Island. Sarah Hiller shared this photo with us. And again, we do help. Thank you for helping us tell this story tonight as Sandy makes her way through our area. Rick and Monica.
Okay, and there will be a lot more stories to tell tomorrow, that's for sure. Thank you, Alicia. We're going to take a quick break, but our coverage continues here on Action News right after this. Stay with us.
Back live, this is a picture live on the action cam of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. They have just had a heavy band of wind and rain from Sandy that passed through in the last hour. But guess what, folks? Another one is right behind it. It's at Cape May right now. It's headed your way, so please take precautions. Heavy surf. You can see the damage is going to be very extensive. The waves of bands of this weather just keep coming again and again. You see the surge of the surf there.
All right, let's get the latest from Delaware County. Action News reporter David Henry has been tracking the flooding through the Darby area. He's got an update on conditions there. Folks, keeping an eye on that Darby Creek, David, huh?
We sure are, Rick, and you'll recall about a half hour ago we were standing out here telling you that the water was a little less than 2 feet from the bottom of this bridge that takes McDade Boulevard across Darby Creek. Well, take a look at it now. At the far end, it is overrunning the bridge, and right at this end, you've got maybe 2 or 3 inches left. So this water is rising rather quickly, as it does in this area, and that's what the borough is very concerned about. They have ordered an evacuation of the low-lying neighborhoods that are just up the creek of us from right here. That's because back during Hurricane Floyd, the water came up so quickly that people could barely get out of their houses in time, and so we had a very stern warning earlier from the police chief.
We're telling you ahead of time, please don't put our emergency personnel at risk, all right?
at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning that we got to come and get you.
Most appear to be getting the message, especially those who lived through Hurricane Floyd 13 years ago.
We're getting everything together and getting ready to leave. We went through this in the last 10 years, maybe 5, 6, 7 times. It's ridiculous.
Anxious to see how, I mean, because we flood out easy anyway, and they're just talking about massive flooding, so everybody around here is just kind of holding on tight, hoping for the best.
Darby Creek rises quickly without warning. Officials are even more worried now because of this. These trees had been cleared to remove an old dam. Now officials fear floodwaters will pick them up and turn them into battering rams, and they're worried they'll jam up under the McDade Boulevard Bridge. Shops and businesses in downtown Darby have been sandbagged. The police plan to shut down the entire town this evening. Evacuees have found shelter at the rec center. The Red Cross has opened 3 shelters in Delaware County. Officials say now is the time to be heading for the safety of the shelters.
If your home is one that is prone to flooding or your streets normally flood out, this would be the time to seek shelter at these 3 locations.
As you can see, the water rising rather rapidly here at the bridge, the McDade Boulevard Bridge that crosses the Darby Creek. The danger is, of course, that it's stopped raining around here, but 26 miles upstream, it is still raining pretty hard, and that water is coming down here rather rapidly right now. What can happen is that a lot of debris ends up on that side of the bridge coming downstream, causes a dam, and once it gets up to the level of the bottom of this bridge, it has nowhere to go, so it starts backing up into those neighborhoods that they've already evacuated. So those folks are safe, but they're going to be keeping a close eye on this all evening long, because really they still remember 13 years ago what happened here, and they do not want to see that again. Live in Darby, David Henry, Channel 6 Action News. Back to you guys.
Okay. All right, thank you, David. Action News reporter Dan Cuellar is in Atlantic City with a closer look at how things are going there now.
Atlantic City, a virtual ghost town. Virtually everyone left except for emergency personnel and a few brave souls who decided to ride this one out. Meanwhile, as Sandy inched ever closer towards Atlantic City, we've recorded wind gusts of up to 60 miles an hour. The waves were pounding the surf relentlessly and showing no signs of mercy. This was the devastating scene at Atlantic Avenue at New Hampshire. Huge portions of the boardwalk ripped apart and strewn across the landscape. Just before 8 o'clock this morning at around high tide, huge waves came in and washed away a 200 to 300 yard section of the boardwalk along Atlantic and Pacific Avenue. Witnesses say it was as if the ocean just came in and consumed it. There were large planks thrown about Atlantic and Pacific Avenue.
I've never seen it on Atlantic Avenue either. I've lived up in the inlet more, and it's always flooded up there, but I've never seen it like this up here.
What you guys going to do?
Yes, we're going to stay here. We're on the 3rd floor, so we're good. If it comes up to the 3rd floor, that means everybody watching this is in trouble. So
nobody's safe
we're
then.
Good, yeah.
So we're good. Be all right on the... A curfew has been ordered in Atlantic City from 6 p.m. until 6 in the morning. No one will be allowed out until after Sandy has made its way through this beautiful shining city by the sea. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, I'm Dan Cuellar.
All right, thank you, Dan. We are awaiting a news conference from New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. He's scheduled to speak any moment on the conditions throughout the Garden State, and we will bring it to you as soon as it gets underway. We heard from the governor earlier today where he was urging people who were living along the barrier islands to get out and evacuate before Sandy definitely makes landfall. We're waiting for the word from the governor to see if those conditions, they probably have deteriorated, but to see if people are heeding his call for evacuations. We're standing by, and we'll bring you that news conference as soon as it happens. But in the meantime, Sandy's powerful winds have caused a crane atop a New York skyscraper to partially collapse. Do we have that video? We mentioned it earlier. Okay, there it is. This is New York City. Take a look at this. A crane atop a New York skyscraper is just hanging precariously from a skyscraper 64 stories above. This was a scene a little while ago. It's a luxury Manhattan building that's under construction at 57th and 7th Street, not far from Carnegie Hall. Part of the crane dangling over the city streets, and New York police have closed the roads below as a precaution. Let's go back to Governor Christie in Trenton for an update on the conditions in the Garden State. The governor's ready.
Good afternoon. We have some important updates for you, both on the path of the storm and the timing of the storm. Hurricane Sandy is now moving twice as fast as when I came to speak to you about 4 hours ago. And we are now expecting landfall in the Atlantic City area to happen within the next hour, sometime between 6 and 7 o'clock. We're at a moment now where evacuation is no longer possible, and we're no longer able to come and rescue people. This has become particularly problematic in Atlantic City, where, for whatever reason, Mayor Langford urged people to stay in shelters in the city. Despite my admonition to evacuate, he gave them comfort, for some reason, to stay. We now have a large number of people, we can't quantify it at this point, that are in Atlantic City, and at this juncture there is no other way for us to go in and get them. They're going to have to ride out the storm there until at least 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I cannot, in good conscience, send rescuers in as the storm is about to hit in the next hour, nor can I send them in the dark, given all the various hazards that would occur potentially to them. And so I asked these people to leave. For some reason, the mayor, in his initial conversations with the public, told them he didn't want his people leaving Atlantic City. So you have people staying, either self-sheltering in their homes or sheltering in some city shelters there, one of which is literally a block away from the bay, in a school, which is now flooded completely. So for those of you who are on the barrier islands who decided it was a better idea to wait this out than to evacuate, and for those elected officials who decided to ignore my admonition, this is now your responsibility. If you're still able to hear me, we need you to hunker down and get to the highest point possible in the dwelling that you're in. We will not be able to come and help you until daylight tomorrow. Please try to hunker down and stay safe until then. We've deployed emergency crews throughout the day to assist individuals, particularly in Atlantic City, with evacuation. But as I said, it's no longer safe for us to do it, so we're stopping now. The winds are very high. We're seeing heavy rainfall, and darkness obviously is quickly creating this kind of dangerous situation for our first responders. At this time, they'll be responding to calls to calls for service only. As soon as it's safe to send them in, we'll send them back in, but that probably won't be until tomorrow morning. We've pre-staged our first swift water strike team in Atlantic City. That's a 21-member team in 4 boats, prepared to launch at 7 a.m. tomorrow for shallow and swift water rescue in Atlantic City. We're keeping 2 other swift water strike teams at Lakehurst. That's 40 trained members, and a total of 10 boats that could deploy anywhere else in New Jersey along the coastline as needed or requested. We'll wait to see what happens both tonight and tomorrow morning. Also now situated at Lakehurst are 2 federally supported USAR Type 1 teams from out of state. That's 180 high-tech urban search and rescue personnel that are fully equipped and self-sustaining, and they also have waterborne capabilities. Regarding flooding, we're also starting to see challenges now in Salem and Cumberland counties on streams and rivers because of heavy rains and tidal push, which we continue to monitor. Luckily, at this point in the rest of the state, we are not yet seeing indications of flooding. There's still a lot more water to come, but at this point, things are positive. As I said earlier, state government is closed tomorrow. Education Commissioner Cerf is encouraging closure of schools to ensure student safety. 509 of our 580 some districts are saying that they will be closed tomorrow. I hope the rest of them will follow suit as soon as possible. All these decisions are made at the local level, but I would hope that they would look at the conditions we're dealing with and would make the smart move and not have school buses out on the road tomorrow. We don't know what the condition the roads will be in. We're going to anticipate during the evening a lot more downed trees and downed wires. It'll just be a very dangerous situation to move folks around tomorrow, we believe. So let's leave these roads open for emergency personnel to get around. Department of Health has requested out-of-state assistance for 75 ambulances to help with pre- and post-storm medical transport. 22 ambulances arrived from Indiana today. I want to thank Governor Daniels for his assistance in this regard, for sending 22 ambulances from Indiana. They arrived today, traveled from Indiana to New Jersey, and I want to thank Governor Daniels for his help in this regard. Let's talk about road closures. Garden State Parkway is closed in both directions from the Driscoll Bridge down to the end of the parkway in Cape May. And the Turnpike is currently closed from exit 7A to exit 8. There are 42 other road closures in 13 counties. Now, when a road is closed, that means it's closed. Now, we can't put a truck at every on-ramp to the Garden State Parkway. But we have announced that the road is closed. We have signs up saying it's closed. Yet we still have people who decide if there's not actually a piece of equipment blocking their way onto the parkway, they're going to drive on it anyway. If you are listening on the radio and you're thinking about getting on the parkway from 129 South, don't. If you're on the parkway between 129 South, get off. This is not acceptable conduct. What's going on and what will go on is when it gets dark, you're not going to be able to see where water is pooled and become extremely deep. And we have flooding conditions on various parts of the Turnpike over those 129 miles. You can get yourself in significant danger being on those roadways from 129 South. So please do not get on the parkway. Even if there's not a truck blocking the on-ramp, it does not mean the road is open. The road is closed. Sign says stay off the road, so please stay off the road. As for power outages, our latest numbers are 348,500 without power. Unfortunately, we expect that to get significantly higher. The breakdown from Atlantic City Electric is 55,000, JCP&L 197,000, PSE&G 94,000, and Orange and Rockland 2,500. The companies are reaching out to states outside this weather pattern and have had some success in obtaining additional crew commitments for statewide linemen, servicemen, and tree cleaning workers to deal with this. PSE&G has secured 526 tree contractors to clear damaged trees and limbs from as far away as Texas, Indiana, Illinois, Florida, and other states, as well as Canada. New Jersey OEM was successful in assisting JCP&L in securing permission to bring in additional helicopters for damage assessment. Once we can get them up in the air, they'll be able to give a greater view to them more quickly about where lines are damaged and for use of additional landing sites throughout the state. Storm is causing a great deal of damage. If you're looking at some of the pictures that we're seeing from the Jersey coastline, I finally heard one person say, maybe our decision to stay this time wasn't such a good idea. I've been in touch with President Obama this afternoon. The president called me at about 2:15 this afternoon. It was just the two of us on the phone. We had a good conversation. President wanted to know if we had everything that we needed to be able to respond to the storm from a federal perspective. I told him at this point we did. He wanted to check on the level of cooperation with FEMA. I said it was excellent because it is. And he told me that if at any point over the next 48 hours I was not getting something for the federal government, that I should call him directly at the White House and that he was going to be there and that I should just not worry about dealing with anybody else, call him. So I appreciate that call from the president. It was very proactive, and I appreciate that type of leadership, and I appreciate the president's telephone call. And if we do need something, I've got the number, and I'll be sure to use it. As of this afternoon, there were about 2,800 residents in state and local shelters, and the 4 state-supported shelters had about 1,800 residents. County shelters have not yet reached capacity in most of the state, so residents should continue to use the state as the last stop after friends and family, municipality, and county. Right now, our stand-up state shelters are safe. They're staffed and stocked with food, water, and medications. And again, you can go to nj211.org. nj211.org to find shelter locations by county if you need to get one now. A few things in closing, and I'll take your questions. If you are in the Barrier Islands still, I want to go back to this. You know, do not try to get out now unless you have information that there is a completely safe way to get out. The flooding is significant on the barriers, and you're putting yourself in danger. The best advice I can give you now, after you having ignored our advice all along, is to get to the highest point possible in the shelter you're in and to hunker down until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then to call authorities to ask to be rescued. and we'll put you in queue behind the other people that we need to rescue, and we'll get those swiftwater boat folks out there to begin urban search and rescue throughout the areas of the Barrier Islands. I'm very disappointed in the fact that some decided to disregard my instruction, in fact my order, and I'm concerned that it might lead to the loss of life. I'm extraordinarily disappointed in elected officials who decide to tell people to directly contravene an order from the governor. That's going to cost people significantly over the course of the next number of hours, unfortunately. I hope, I pray, that there won't be any loss of life because of it. The rest of this team stands ready to continue to work throughout the night to get things done. I think we're staring at the worst 4 to 6 hours of the storm coming, starting in about 15 minutes or so. And then we'll be able to start to look to see, given how quickly the storm started to move now, and maybe by tomorrow early evening, the ability to start to look at damage assessment and see what we can do about beginning to assemble recovery teams. So that's where we are now. I'm happy that the storm has moved more quickly. I think it will help us, especially with flooding being less severe than it might have otherwise been, because it's coming more quickly and will miss, for the most part, the high tide period of this evening. So let's hope it doesn't slow down for some reason, hits shore, and then let's get moving and let's get everything done. Last thing I'll say is to the folks out there who still have power or on TV or listening on radio is please stay home. We're almost near the end of this now, at least this first phase of the problem. And if you're safe already, you're most likely to continue to stay safe. If you lose power, be careful about the lighting of candles and all the rest of that. Don't start fires someplace else in the state, in your home, because you're not paying attention. But stay safe. Keep your children close to you. Continue to listen for announcements, and we will continue to work hard here to make sure that as many people in New Jersey as we can keep safe, we will keep safe. Questions? Michael.
Governor, you say 348,500 homes are without power.
Yes, sir.
The winds don't seem that strong yet. Is that from trees toppling, or is it from flooded substations, or do we know?
The winds aren't as strong here, Michael, but look at the winds on the coastline. I mean, what you're finding is most of those outages are on the coastline. Atlantic City Electric and a lot of the JCP&L territories along the coast. What I'm worried about, Michael, is those numbers are going to go up exponentially because the wind is going to follow the rain. So we're going to have even more wind coming inland later on tonight, through the night, in the morning, tomorrow morning. So, I'm still concerned the outages will go up significantly more. You're right. We've had some significant wind here, but not hurricane-type wind, but they've had hurricane-type wind at the coastline. And that's where you're seeing a lot of the outages happen. Also, the JCP&L has made the decision to power down their substations on the Barrier Islands to avoid any further damage to the substations of the Barrier Islands. So they're going to be little or no power on those Barrier Islands. May already have happened.
Mayor Langford, You've been listening to Governor Chris Christie outline a mixed bag of current conditions in the Garden State. For the most part, city, county, and state shelters well stocked, and there are plenty of people seeking shelter, but he did list at least one shelter in Atlantic City that is packed full of people. They've evacuated that shelter, but it is already flooded, and he's urging them to go to the highest floor, and he's just saying his prayers along with all of us. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it.
And just a reminder of these traffic notes, part of the Garden State Parkway closed at this hour, as is part of the New Jersey Turnpike. So just no reason to actually be on the roads or even be out of your home if necessary.
All right, let's take it over to the weather team. Meteorologist Cecily Tynan and Adam Joseph with the very latest, and we're in the brunt of it now, nearly. Cecily?
We really are in the heart of the storm. It looks like Sandy will be making landfall very near Sea Isle City. I would say within the next half hour. It's very close right now. The center of the storm estimated about 26 miles south of Atlantic City. Pressure remains 940 millibars. It's a very strong storm. It continues moving very quickly towards the west-northwest, 28 miles an hour. Center is actually a little bit farther to the north. Maximum sustained winds 90 miles an hour. There are a couple things, though, I do want to show you on Satellite 6 along with Action Radar. This is a very front-loaded system. The heaviest rain is ahead of this storm system, so that's all the heaviest rain. And it's not to say that it won't really regenerate and begin to fill in as it moves ashore, but I think that we're seeing the heaviest rain bands moving in right now as the storm system gets very close. And again, Sea Isle City residents really do need to brace themselves. But this is a massive storm system So even if you're not near Sea Isle, the barrier islands, the Delaware beaches, you are going to get hit very hard. This is the latest track. It brings it into Cape May County, continues to move up to the north and the west. Very important, though, to talk about storm surge. To the north, we're looking at, in general, 6 to 10 foot storm surge. 15 feet is not out of the question. To the south, it'll be about 4 to 8. Now, 60% of the barrier islands at 5 feet or below sea level. Wait, 5 feet. They're below 5 feet above sea level. That's what I'm trying to say. So when you get a 6 to 10 foot storm surge, it will be submerging the barrier islands. You get any storm surge above 5 feet, it's going to be submerging the barrier islands. So you really have to be very careful. Hunker down. Hopefully a lot of people are in shelters and are ready. So again, on the verge of making landfall near Sea Isle City. I think it'll happen around 6 o'clock or shortly thereafter. If it hasn't already, the bay and the ocean will be merging over the barrier islands. The barrier islands will be submerged. They will be cut off. And again, we're talking about a possible surge up to 15 feet, 6 to 10 feet in general. Now, Storm Tracker 6 live showing the heavy bands of rain, and with a hurricane, the heavy rain comes with a heavy wind. What the rain does, it pulls the highest winds in the upper atmosphere down to the surface. So where you see these rain bands, these are the areas getting the highest wind gusts, and they are moving inland. Near Coatesville right now, just south of Reading, near Oxford, we're looking at a heavy band of rain moving across the Pennsylvania Turnpike, all moving to the north and the northwest. And I want to do another zoom a little bit farther down to the south, and you can see how they are getting a lull in the action in Atlantic City and Surf City. But we do have this heavy band of rain that's moving across South Jersey, and it'll continue to push to the west. So Delaware, you will be getting that. And some of the wind gusts with this have been very impressive. For more on that, let's head over to Adam Joseph. Adam.
Yeah, and in those bands, Cecily, that you were showing setting up here, that's also not only where we're seeing the heavy rain, but that's where we're seeing the intense wind gusts as well. So far, the wind gusts have really picked up. In Tuckerton, Ocean County, we've had a wind gust now up to 88 miles an hour. That's close to that 90-mile-an-hour wind that the storm has been producing off of the ocean as it's getting closer toward that coastline. Harvey Cedars, 75 miles an hour. Toms River, 68 miles an hour. Bushkill coming in at 70 miles an hour. And northeast Philadelphia so far clocking in at 59 miles an hour. Those expected wind gusts, we've been telling you over the last few days that they would be between 60 and 80 miles an hour and above 80 at the shore. And unfortunately, that is what is unfolding this afternoon and this evening. We still could get wind gusts right along the shore, especially near that landfall between Atlantic City and Sea Isle City, between 80 and 100 miles an hour. Inland locations, 60 and 80, even after the eye, the center, makes landfall and pushes inland. Although it's going to slowly wind down, we'll still see wind gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour through the remainder of tonight. So there are some city concerns, especially for the city of Wilmington and for Philadelphia, with those larger, taller buildings that are close together. Winds will funnel through those high rises. Those funneling winds actually will rise more. So even if you get a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust going through the city, it could go to speeds of 80 to 100 miles an hour, because if you think about it, it has all this open land, and then it has to squeeze in between the buildings. And as you're funneling it through there, it has to go faster and faster as it gets through that narrower window of open air. And it also could blow out some of the windows, or as debris hits the windows, could burst them. So that is something we're watching tonight. Another thing that just popped in my head also was the winds have been generally in one direction with the storm so far. As the center comes in and the wind starts to switch direction, everything has been battered one way. Now it's going to get battered the opposite way. So if trees have been weak, they're going in one direction, then they're going to bend in another. So we could see more power outages as the system pulls to the north and west as those winds switch direction. Also, flood warnings. They're basically for almost every county in our viewing area, with the exception of the Lehigh Valley, Allentown, not in a flood warning now. This just means every county is seeing some kind of freshwater flooding at the present time, and that will continue through the overnight hours tonight. Rick and Monica will have much more coming up on Hurricane Sandy and what it will mean not only for tonight, but for the next couple of days as well.
Okay, just to reiterate, landfall expected what time, Adam?
Just after the 6 o'clock hour, between 6 and 6:30, right around Sea Isle City.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We want to get an update on the situation in the Diamond State at this hour. Action News reporter John Rollins standing by in Wilmington, where we also assume conditions there are continuing to worsen as well as Sandy gets closer. John?
Yeah, throughout the day they have been deteriorating. We are at the riverfront section of Wilmington right now. This is the newly developed area there along the Christiana River. The Christiana, we are told, is just about at flood stage, not quite yet. It has certainly seen a lot of rain here today. The wind right now, quite frankly, in the last 5 minutes has calmed down, although I say that and the gust starts coming along and you better hold on to your hat or it won't be here. It has been, well, I guess a day. We certainly have had no unexpected issues here inland in Delaware at this point. That doesn't mean we haven't had some road closures, we haven't had some evacuations, but they've been for the most part preemptive. Let me walk along here and you take a look here. You'll see it's sort of a ghost town down here. People taking the advice of authorities and they are staying out of the weather at this point, certainly down in this part of the city. For the most part, though, as we say, everything has been pretty much preemptive. There are some people statewide in various, I think there's 7 locations that they've set up various shelters for them. The last number we heard was about 650 people in those shelters. I'm sure that number has increased. They also, post-Katrina, as we pointed out, they have now those shelters have facilities for pets, so people can take their pets. So if anybody who is reluctant to want to leave their house because they don't want to leave their pets behind, the facilities apparently, at least the one we went to at William Penn High School here in Newcastle County, had about 23 or 24 pets in their census at this point in time. So people, I hate to use the word hunker down, I've heard it more today than probably have in the last 5 years, but people are hunkered down here. They're waiting. The sense is it's coming. We all know, we've seen the pictures and the reports from Rehoboth and from other points on the shore that the storm is out here probably another 6 or 7 hours before it reaches its peak here in this part of the area. People are ready for it. They're as ready as can be, but they know it's going to be a tough number of hours once that storm hits here and peaks. So that's pretty much the situation. We're waiting for Sandy. Sandy is knocking, and it's going to be a long night, we suspect, here in Newcastle County. Live in Wilmington, John Rollins, Channel 6 Action News. Back to you all.
All right, John, thank you. Meantime, President Obama is urging residents here and those in the path of Hurricane Sandy nationwide to listen to warnings from state and local officials.
That's right. He says by not evacuating when you've been asked to, you are obviously putting first responders in extreme danger.
The most important message that I have for the public right now is please listen to what your state and local officials are saying. When they tell you to evacuate, you need to evacuate. Do not delay. Don't pause. Don't question the instructions that are being given, because this is a serious storm and it could potentially have fatal consequences if people haven't acted quickly.
All right, so we want to reiterate some safety tips to pass along to you as you look at the video of what's already occurred and you wait out the storm with us. First of all, stay indoors. Close and lock all your windows and your doors. If you do lose power and you have to light some candles, please never leave the candles unattended. If you leave the room, blow them out and then relight them when you come back in. Also, please only call 911 for an actual emergency. If you have a question that's not an emergency and you live in Philadelphia, you can call the city's 311 helpline for non-emergency problems.
All right, quick break, but our coverage continues. Jim Gardner up next. Have a good evening. Be safe.